Civic advocate and former presidential candidate Ralph Nader was in Western Massachusetts over the weekend to conduct a 3-day workshop at the Rowe Conference Center. Titled It's Easier Than You Think, How to Change America, the workshop helped to show how an individual can facilitate the changes they want to see in our government.
Well, they pick an area of wrongdoing or an area of unfairness that they're temperamentally and intellectually attuned to and go to work on it. Usually they'll find other people already at work on it so they can join them, an environmental group, a civil liberties group, a neighborhood improvement group. So, there are plenty of little groups that would like more people to be part of them. And that's the way you get your foot in the door. It's the way you learn how to practice democracy. We don't go to schools that teach us civic skills in the context of civic experience, connecting schools to their community, to their town hall, to their drinking water purification plant, to their nature, to all the things that students should learn about their own community going back into their history. So that when they come out of high school or college or graduate school, they're not prepared to engage, so they're ready to be befuddled, to be discouraged, to be overwhelmed. And how do you negotiate town meetings? How do you put candidates on the ballot? How do you build coalitions? How do you get people out to demonstrations and rallies? How do you use the tools of democracy that we already have and we underuse, like the Freedom of Information Act? So all the absence of all this leads to what we all know as apathy. And the other side of apathy is powerlessness. And so they reinforce each other. And unless they have strong self-confidence as citizens and show how one person can make a difference and a few people can make a bigger difference, and that's been true throughout American history, they give up on themselves. And they start making excuses as to why they don't have time, they don't know how to be civically engaged, and even if they were, it doesn't matter. So I think that's the way we have to look at it, show how the people in their community, a few of them have really stood tall and have gotten things done, and throughout American history, that encourages them, and then gets them to think about their descendants. What kind of country are we going to pass to our children and grandchildren? That often is a powerful motivator. And then try to have after school or storefront civic training seminars so people learn how to be more effective citizens, and they get in touch with one another because they're part of the same seminar. All this is possible. It just takes 1% of the people can turn this country around as long as they have public opinion behind them.
Beyond looking at what an individual can do, Nader spoke about the importance of left-right collaboration, and that in a time of extreme partisanism, the major parties may have more in common than they realize.
Well, there's two stages of left-right. I point out in my book, Unstoppable, the Emerging Left-Right Alliance to Dismantle the Corporate State. One is public opinion. Already there is huge public opinion to restore the minimum wage, left-right, to improve our civil liberties and amend the Patriot Act after the so-called war on terrorism has depleted our democratic society. There's left-right support for the reform of the drug war, prison reform, juvenile justice reform. There's left-right opposition to Wall Street. They want Main Street over Wall Street. There's a big left-right to break up the big New York banks that are too big to fail. They don't want another round of bailouts on the taxpayers' back. There's a big left-right support to get rid of crony capitalism or corporate welfare. All these programs, subsidized handouts, giveaways, bailouts to corporations by our government, paid for by the taxpayers. That's a big one. And there's a real big one in terms of law and order for the big guys. Prosecute the crooks in Wall Street, comes in over 90%. They want a fair society. They don't want corporations paying no federal income tax. They don't want rich people having tax havens and gaming the system and not paying their fair share of taxes. These are just starters. They're very important. I think there's an emerging left-right coalition like Rand Paul on the right, and a lot of people on the left, challenging our empire, wars of aggression overseas, bleeding our country domestically, increasing more people who hate us and want to fight us in countries all over Asia and Africa. So I think this is the new political realignment that can break the gridlock in Congress and in Washington and state legislatures. Already, there have been successes, which I point out in my book, juvenile justice reform in 15 state legislatures, more and more cities and states increasing the minimum wage. It's about to reach Congress for the federal minimum wage restoration. And you can see it in one area after another, local, state, and national, beginning to come together if they can overcome the emphasis of the power structure on left-right opposition with one another. Sure, they disagree on a number of issues, A, B, C, D, but now they've got to say, okay, we disagree on these issues. Here are the issues, W, X, Y, Z, where we do agree, and let's join together in an unstoppable coalition to change our country.
For more information on Nader's writings or work, please visit nader.org and check back to GCTV for ongoing community coverage.